Hey guys, welcome back to the Franchise Tagged Podcast, Season 2, Episode 13, coming back at you, telling you to go check out the Spotify, as we post these there every single week. Typically, it's on Thursdays at 4 p.m. Central, 3 p.m. Nope, I do this wrong every single goddamn time. 4 p.m. Central, 5 p.m. Eastern. However, this week, it's Wednesday at that time, because we got Thursday Thanksgiving football going on. So Elijah, do you want to run them down the schedule of our show?
Yep, so we're going to start off, we're going to go game-by-game recap for just a small little slate of games here. We're kind of then going to switch, because we're not doing a segment for Wednesdays this week, we're just going to do a quick little injury report for the Thanksgiving games. Usually we don't talk much about injuries because, we record on a Tuesday, games we are played on Sundays, but we got a decent enough slate being played before Sunday this week, so we're going to go over some of those injuries propping up during this short week. And then we are just going to go through our pick'ems, do any stock moves that we have, and then we will wrap it up.
Yes, sir. So, starting off, Thursday Night Football. This was the snow game, an absolutely beautiful game to watch. Oh my god! And Jameis is such a fun person. I don't know if you've seen the mic'd up clips from him from this game.
I saw one, yeah.
I just right before recording, I was just scrolling, and I saw like a 2-minute compilation of just all the things he said mic'd up this week. He's great. I hope he stays their starter for the foreseeable future. Hey, Cleveland won. Shout out. And we had just kind of been struggling with the fact that the Steelers are a legit team, and we finally got to that conclusion, and we were like, yep, Steelers are legit, and now we're not sure again. So yeah. How much does this loss matter? And the history of the AFC North just kind of being an unpredictable wasteland of rivalries. Nobody can seem to beat each other when they should. It's always the underdogs coming out in those matchups. So how much stock do you put in this loss for the Steelers?
Yeah, it's interesting because I felt like this is the type of game that the Steelers brand of football should win. That very like, okay, they're going to take their shots when they can, but also they run the ball a lot. Like they have that real strong preface of we are going to run the ball. We're going to do play auctions off of that. We're going to take deep shots when we can. And a lot of it's playing from under center. It's not like straight drop back passing like a lot of teams across the league. So when you look at a game that's like, okay, it's in the elements, you might not have the best day through the air, so you're going to go ahead and try to get it done on the ground. It just really didn't amount to being a great game for them as a whole. It felt like the passing was obviously going to be off a little bit. But run game-wise, there's elements, so you're going to be slipping. You're not going to have as good footing. But it really does feel like in these element games, the teams that know how to run the ball, that know how to control clock, that are just kind of a little bit safer with their play calling, they generally come out on top in these games. And so in this one, the Steelers not winning the way that the Steelers win the game, it's kind of worrying. And there is that like tweet that went out of like, here's the teams that the Steelers have lost to this season, and it's a bunch of like sub 4 win teams. It's interesting because it was such a stark difference of conversation just a week ago. You lose to the Browns, and suddenly people don't have much faith in you. Shocker. But yeah, personally, I think that it's kind of like a warning sign. But with the elements, I'm not putting so much behind it. Like if this continues, if this kind of surmounts into like for the next 3 games, they drop 2 out of the 3, then I'm like, okay, it's probably because of the problems we saw exacerbated, against the Browns. But for now, just because of the way the game was, and then the absolute like heroics Jameis did throughout that game, it's kind of hard to say, oh yeah, no, they lost to like a really bad team, because the Browns played better than they have really most of the year with the play from the quarterback and such.
Yeah, I think it's more. I put much more stock in the fact that AFC North matchups are never
safe.
They're never real games. They don't actually happen. But the Ravens are liable to lose to any of the NFC North or AFC North teams, despite to me, being the most complete and best out of the three. So I don't think that it knocks them off too much. I think, like you said, if they continue to drop them, then we can kind of be like, okay, this is the Steelers team that we know. This is the Mike Tomlin 9-8 seasons, or 8-8 back when that was when they played 16. So we're kind of getting back towards it, looking more like it might be a close, narrow streak extender for his non-losing seasons. But
Yeah. Get a nice 9-8 or an 8-1. That'd be fun.
that would be Steelers. Yeah.
That's Steelers football right there.
Yeah. Do you wanna get into some of these Sunday games? Just a couple of them. There's, I mean, we can get into the early slate of the Commanders. I'm sorry, Jacob. I'm so sorry. Friend of the podcast.
Man.
He's a big Commanders fan, and we were just texting live throughout that game, and just like it was super hype, then just down in the dumps, and then super hype, and then down straight back into the dumps, and it was all over like the last minute of game time. And it was,
And
oh,
I mean,
man.
that was a game that, like, I'm pretty sure with like 5 minutes left in the game, it was like 13-9 or
Yeah.
something. Like, it was the super low scoring, and then the last 5 minutes was just fireworks. And the fact that they, like, we can see Austin Seibert kind of had some issues throughout that game, and then they were like, okay, we're going to trust you to go send out the game tying kick, and then it's like, that really, like, screws you. It really pigeonholes you way harder than you would think, because you just had this huge play with Terry McLaurin. That was phenomenal play from Terry McLaurin and Jaden Daniels, but to see it kind of fall the way it did immediately after, take all of the momentum away from you, it's really hard. And it's like, then the Cowboys are like, oh, let's run up the score, and it's like, okay, we're still in this game because they just decided to do that, instead of just like sliding, recover the ball and go down and let the game end there. But
Yeah. That's what I wanted to touch on, is that onside kick return. That was entirely unnecessary. The Commanders should have been the Cowboys kneeling out the game for the win, and instead it was the Commanders having a Hail Mary at the last second to try and win it.
And then also in that early slate of these, like, just heart-wrenching losses for teams, the Bears, like, miracle. Like, I switched off that channel because I was like, okay, they're down enough. It's the Bears. They're not going to manage to do much with this. And then I go and I watch the end of the Raiders-Chiefs, which we'll get into in a little. Raiders-Chiefs. The Chiefs game with the Panthers. And then I go ahead and I'm like, okay, cool. Good ending there. And then I go back and I'm like, oh my God, this is going to overtime? What did I miss? What? And the onside recovery, like, there's only been 3 of those all season long. Very low percentage thing to occur. Just to pull that off, it's like, okay, wow, that's a big momentum boost. And then, okay, now we're going into overtime. But then the way overtime went for the Bears was just the worst, honestly. And then the fact that, it was just a first team scores situation, and then the defense couldn't put anything together right at the end to be that stalwart defense that they've been a little bit this year. They started off really hot as a defense. They faltered a little bit along the way. Then the offense has kind of picked up a little bit, but then also faltered along the way. The Bears are really just like, it's a coaching issue for sure.
Oh, absolutely.
The talent was there. The talent has performed to things you would imagine at moments, but they are unable to consistently put like a good game plan around Caleb, around like the defense to be good long enough for the offense to make up for it a lot of the times. So yeah, the Bears sitting at, I think it's 4-7 now. Definitely playoff hopes dashed by that loss within the division.
Yeah, I mean, they started off 4-2. Like, they've dropped 5 straight. This is not a and the thing is, they've shown so many flashes of greatness that they can be. And I actually wanted to kind of ask you this. What do you think the odds are that Ben Johnson goes and becomes the next Bears coach? And if that happens, how disappointed will you be, or excited will you be to see that offense and see it hopefully click.
It's interesting for sure. I think that when you kind of like look at Ben Johnson and like the fact that he came back to the team after, the past couple of off seasons where he's definitely had some interest from other, for head coaching roles. I'm not sure if it's like I'm fine not being a head coach and I just want to cook plays like a madman in a laboratory, or if it's like just like, I love the culture here and I love the talent we have, because talent wise, yeah, he wasn't going to go to the Panthers. Like that's not a ownership like situation you want to put yourself in. I mean, they hired a whole new coaching slate and then they fired him halfway through the year. That's not exactly a secure job you're going to put yourself in from like the Lions, from the heights that he's at right now. So the Bears, 4 options that I'm currently projecting this like offseason to be head coach vacancies. This would be a good one for him because it has all of the offensive talent to execute everything he needs. And it's really like a strong defense without like, he would bring a coordinator or what have you, and you have the talent on the defense where it's not going to be like, okay, we have to make something with nothing and the offense has to like go drop 50 every game to win these. It's really the best situation for him in my mind. And in division, matching up against him twice a year would definitely be like exhilarating. It would suck because it's like, okay, we're already in one of the best divisions and we just got the worst team in the division, making them even better because Ben Johnson. But it would almost feel nice reunion, like getting a reunion twice a year with Ben Johnson. That little bit of rivalry, I know him and Ben would definitely, or Dan and Ben would, really meet midfield and everyone would just be happy. Like regardless of the outcome of the game, they're just going to be pals for sure. I think that if they were to be successful, I would like it, but I also don't trust the organization of the Bears to continue the way that they have they built this team this year as it's going to be Caleb's team. It's going to be Flus's turn to prove that he should be our coach. And I'm not sure if that really continues much if, new ownership or GM or whatever takes place this offseason.
Yeah, and the other concern I have is I'm sure Ben Johnson loves having such a strong offensive line, so I don't know how he'd feel going to a team with a pretty sizable question mark at most O-line spots.
Yeah.
But that'll be talk for the off season. I definitely think he'll go to another team.
Yeah.
I think he'll get a head coaching job this offseason. And he had said that it was more of I want there to be cohesion between ownership, GM, and coach at the spot that I go to. And it's less of a money thing and less of a I don't want to leave Detroit thing and much more of like I want to go to the right spot.
The situation needs to be right. Yeah. And I think Dan has definitely like encouraged that amongst his staff beneath him. Like he's not going to tell them, no, you can't go to the Bears. He's going to go, okay, they've seen what success looks like at the organizational level with Dan and Brad having that cohesion together. And it's like, you gotta look for this when you're going somewhere because this is the culture, this is the organization you want to be a part of. So leaving that organization for a more dysfunctional one, as I kind of mentioned with the Panthers, that would be a major setback for Ben, and I don't see that being a good ending for him.
Yeah. You had mentioned the Chiefs and the Chiefs game that you had switched to. That one, man, benching these young quarterbacks, it seems to work. It's tie in again Brad Johnson with the Lions game. You played Anthony Richardson. He kind of went back to his like sub 40% completion percentage, but over 150 yards and just a lot of deep shots. And watching some of the clips from that game, definitely not his fault that those receivers were dropping passes. They were just going through the fingertips. And with Bryce Young, it seems to have worked as well. I saw a lot of plays where he was against the blitz and he was figuring things out and making good decisions, and he's really increased his performance in those tight situations. And to see him do so well after he was such a question mark against Steve Spagnuolo's defense is really just telling that I'm like, okay, Bryce is probably the future in Carolina, and
Yeah.
maybe benching him was the right decision for a little bit.
Yeah, it's a weird little like catch-22 though, because Dave Canales refuses to be like, "Yep, he's our guy." And like I feel like after that performance specifically, like you're against a 9-1 team, now 10-1 after they beat you, but like you're in such a tight matchup against one of the, record-wise best teams of the AFC, and you're not going to be like rallying behind your guy after that game. It's kind of like a tough look moving forward. I would love to see them be like, yeah, Bryce is our guy rest of the year, and we're going to ride with him, because that was truly one of his better performances. And like as you said, with the blitz, handling the blitz as a young player in the league is definitely a thing that is kind of trial by fire. Like, yeah, you can sit on the bench and be like, okay, I need to identify this protection and do all of this, but also when you have the 300-pound men barreling at you at 4.4 speed, you weren't getting that regardless of if you played SEC or wherever. That's not happening in college. So it's got to be learned through the game reps, and he certainly performed well against it in that game. Against one of the a top 10 defense, he went ahead and he led an offense to 27 points. So when you put it in that perspective, it's like, okay, why not name him your guy going forward? And then on the flip side of this, why on the earth is a top 10 defense in the Chiefs not winning this game a little bit more convincingly? The Chiefs just refuse to win convincingly. It's like, how many one-score games have they been in? I feel like it's.
I think it's all of them. Yeah, no, they beat the Saints. They beat the Saints by two scores.
Yeah, there's a handful that are like 10-point differential, and then it's like, okay.
And again, but it's the Saints. Like,
Yeah.
are we really expecting any different? And I think you had mentioned it earlier this season when I don't remember what we were talking about, but we were talking about the Panthers and how when they benched Bryce Young. You had said maybe Canales was promised a little bit of leeway and his own quarterback if he came to Carolina and didn't like Bryce. And his reluctance to say that, yes, Bryce is great, Bryce is our future, Bryce is our starter, kind of makes me think that maybe you were right, and maybe he's reluctantly accepting that Bryce Young is actually a quality starter in the league, or maybe struggling to come to terms with that fact. And I'm just wondering how long it'll go for, like if they'll have a good relationship eventually, or if this is going to be I don't have an example, but like a coach and QB like just headbutting all the time. And Bryce Young is definitely just a happy little guy out there, and he's happy to have any sort of success, and the team, I'm sure, is rallying behind him. So he probably won't come out and be like, man, fuck Dave Canales. But if the vibes point to that, I wonder what that would look like for the future. If we'll see something like a questionable decision to not re-sign him, or if Tepper will step in, and because he's still there, right?
Yeah, I believe so.
Yeah. If he'll step in and be like, no, this is our guy, and you do what I say. So I'm curious to see that, and I'm curious to see how that plays out, because he's not said anything nice about Bryce, I don't think, ever. And it's not a good look when you're trying to build some team chemistry and have a new identity, to have a coach who's not willing to say, this is our quarterback.
Yeah, especially with like, you'll see him on the sideline like he's getting excited when Bryce performs well, but then it's like post game he's like, oh yeah, we'll decide based on the, we'll see how the tape looks, and then we'll name our starter next week. It's like, dude, like, come on.
It gets to a point where you just gotta just quit it. Just stop.
All right, you wanna lead us into this game, this Sunday night football game?
So after those games, the heart wrenchers in the early slate, the Chiefs, also being I don't know about heart wrencher, but almost losing. Then we get to
heart wrencher for the Panthers. All right.
Heart wrencher for the Panthers for sure, and for me as a Chiefs hater, a chater, if you will. We get into Sunday Night Football, where I posted a TikTok clip of us talking about the Sunday night game. And in the clip, I was like, yeah, and Saquon's popping off a little bit, and the rest of the Eagles offense, they're doing pretty good. And about halfway through the game, we get a comment on that TikTok, and he's like, yeah, Saquon popping off a little bit. And I was like, that's gotta be my best age to take out there, because I don't have too many of them.
The immediate, just, it came to fruition.
Yeah. And this isn't just like a good game. Like, this is a historically great game from Saquon. He had 30 touches for over 300 yards, so he was averaging over 10 yards a touch.
Yeah.
And on 30 touches, so that's catches and rush attempts. And he had the 3 touchdowns? 3 touchdowns?
2 touchdowns on the ground, yeah.
Yeah, I don't think he had one through the air. 2 touchdowns. He is our franchise tagged player of the week. I should probably send that tweet out sometime soon, but I'll do it after we finish recording. But yeah, that was an MVP level performance, and I think he has thrusted himself into the MVP conversation as we're kind of lacking for quality quarterback options a little bit this year.
Yeah, I mean, you kind of told me, you were like, wow, he really can be on pace to break 2K. And it's like, in this day and age, in this league, if that accomplishment is had and he doesn't win MVP, to me, that's kind of like the triple crown for Cooper Kupp. Like, it's the same level of achievement. And if he doesn't win MVP, it's simply just like the MVP award being a quarterback award. And he, like, as disappointing as that is this day and age, I'd love for it not to be. I'd love for it to be a running back that gets 2,000 yards, and that hasn't been done in a good long while.
Yeah, the other thing, Saquon isn't like that far off of being on pace to break the record. Not just hit 2K, but get to 20. I think it was 2105 is what Eric Dickerson's record was, and he could beat that. Like, that is a feasible thing for him to do. I think he only needs to average like 120 a game, and he's got there. Well, I mean, it's Saquon. With his
he
just put up 250. But yeah, this is a season that may be like the last great running back season until there's a big shift in the landscape of the NFL. I had done a video on if we'd ever see another 2,000 yard rusher, and I didn't think we would. But the names I threw out were not anybody that was like Saquon was not one of the names that I had said. Mm-hmm. I think I had just kind of not thought that the Eagles O-line would be as good as it is, and I think they're doing a really good job of keeping him healthy as well. Because he's not getting hit behind the line of scrimmage and having to dance around 5 yards back to get 5 yards gained, he's able to kind of stay a little healthier, and I'm thinking that's why we're seeing him really explode, is just because of the offense he's in. And kind of Derrick Henry as well, where he wasn't getting injured as often, but he was the entire offense in Tennessee with a little bit of passing here and there from Ryan Tannehill. And then, now he's just he's top 5 in the league in rushing and his new offense, but
part of an actual full team.
Yeah. But with that Sunday Night Football talk, we can get into Monday Night Football, the Harbaugh Bowl, where John is up 3-0 on Jim now. Mm-hmm. And that's
and rough. I gotta say, I did not know which one of them was the older brother. I would not have guessed that Jim looks older, in my opinion.
Yeah, is he not?
No, he's not. He's the younger brother.
What?
I know. Huh? I know. It's like, sorry, Jim, you have not aged as gracefully as we would have hoped.
No, there's no way. There's just no way. John is 62. Jim is... Dude, there's no way. What?
It's got to be the glasses. Like, what? I don't know what it is, man.
Huh? Oh, okay. Oh my God. That's a shocking revelation right there. You started to say that, and I was like, no, it's so clearly Jim's the older brother. And then you're like, he is not.
Yeah. Anyways, to get to the game.
Yeah. This was Ravens classic. This year they've had a lot of penalties, and that continued a bunch this game. I felt like a couple of them were pretty ticky-tack, but they were ticky-tack both ways. And that's what I think it was, I was watching the Manning cast, and I'm pretty sure one of them had said, like, this ref crew is not afraid to throw penalties. Like they're pretty trigger happy with the flag. And then the other thing that I wanted to comment on in the Manning cast, they were confused why the Ravens would go for 2 when they scored to go up 7. So they scored a touchdown, and after just the touchdown, they were up 7. And the options are kick the extra point, go up 8, and go for 2 and go up 9. And I have no idea why they weren't sure that going for 2 is the right option there. Because it's a difference between a 1-score game and a 2-score game. There's no question.
It's an extra possession.
And if you go for 2 and don't make it, it's not like the other team is going to score a touchdown and go for 2 and win it. They're not. They're gonna score and kick the field goal or kick the extra point and get
unless it's like such a game-ending play, like those final second decisions when it's like, oh, we're gonna send out the 2-point crew with 1 second on the clock because we want to win the game now, not in overtime, or don't even give them a chance in overtime. That's a whole thing. But like in that moment, you just go for 2 because then you extend the amount of drives it'll take the opponent to even do anything. And then if they don't, well, then they are going to score and it's going to be tied. You're not really risking much there.
Yeah. And like the other, I guess the point is that it's easier to stop a 2-point conversion than it is to stop an extra point from happening. So if you kick the extra point, they have to go for 2. They might not make the 2-point conversion. But to me, there's not even a question. There's not even hesitation. And I guess maybe I play a little bit too much college football, and I'm in that scenario more often than the Manning brothers probably are. But I see that, and I'm like, yeah, you go for 2, you go up 2 scores. Like that's just there's no. It's not even a thought that happens in my head. It's just automatic. Yep, you go for it.
Yeah, and this year so far, it's roughly like a 33% chance that you're going to get the 2-point conversion. I just quickly Googled that. It's not the most up-to-date stat, but it's roughly around a 33% chance. So if you can make it on, 1/3 times to make it a 2-score game versus not, statistically, those are odds you would take. It's going to be worst case scenario, you're going to be tied. Like, it's pretty self-explanatory to go for that.
And the worst possible thing is Justin Tucker missing an extra point to go up 8 and keeping him at 7. So that's another thing that can happen. But that's my only beef with basically anything that happened Monday night was that they were confused about that. And I was just so baffled as to how they could be confused about that. I was just like, for the entire fourth quarter, I was just like, how do you not get it? And Mike Vrabel was on, and he was kind of explaining it to him, and they were like, yeah, but like going up 8's still a good decision. Like that's still hard to come back from. And Vrabel agreed with them, and I was like, this guy was a head coach. Like you should know more than anybody.
Let's be honest. You don't argue with you're a guest. I wouldn't argue with the host of the show. It's not really a conductive content thing. I'm sure it's just don't want to butt heads much. So and you kind of just meet that middle ground there. Yeah. In the game, I felt like it kind of started off pretty hot for both teams. I felt like those early opening drives were like, okay, this is going to be a great game. This could be pretty high scoring. The Ravens, I mean, shout out Rashad Bateman for that catch. Like that was very impressive to see. Sorry for the backhanded compliment from Rashad Bateman.
I think I texted you something like that. I was like, dude, he can catch now.
It's certainly a very good performance from the Ravens. Of course, there's the penalty issues and the defense, but the defense played better than I felt they have most of the year. And it might be because they're going against a team that isn't primarily a passing offense. Like, that's their weak point. That's why the games against the Bengals have been absolutely insane for the Ravens this year. But in terms of the Chargers game, what was specifically the injury to J.K. Dobbins? Because that's like around the point of time where I stopped watching, started driving to work, and then started watching the game at work. I'm not 100% sure what the injury was to J.K. Dobbins and what the...
I am trying to find out right now. My go-to injury guy on Twitter is not... He's taking a couple days off, yeah. So I went to check his tweet because you had asked me to like update the Thanksgiving injury report, and I was like, I know where to go. And then his most recent tweet is, I'll be off for the next 2 days. So and I was like, man. Jim Harbaugh makes worrying comments on J.K. Dobbins' knee injury after a Monday Night Football loss. After the game, Harbaugh didn't provide a glowing update on Dobbins' injury. He said he had no update. I hate.
Oh dear, that's horrible news.
I fucking hate journalism, man. I hate it so much. I hate it. So no, I don't have an update for you there to answer your question.
Lovely.
But with his history, I am a little concerned, just because he has had the ACLs and Achilles injuries. I'm pretty sure over basically his first 4 years in the league, I don't think he's played a full season. So speaking of those injuries, though, we can get into the injury report here for the Thanksgiving games in a moment. First, though, if you want to recap last week's pick'ems.
Yeah, will do. So that was a rough week of pick'ems for us. Kind of back and forth. Like, you went on a nice little stretch in those early games, but both of us got the Thursday night game wrong, and I was a little bit more hit or miss on that early slate of games. But at the end of the day, I went 7-6. You went 8-5 on the day. We both locked the Broncos win, and we both got that correct. I'm glad I bandwagoned over there on you. And then we got the total record for the year. For me, it's sitting at 113.66 and 7-5 on my lock record. So I finally have gotten one. I've gotten myself a nice little gap from being 500. I'm Mike Tomlining my lock record this year. And then on your side, you are sitting at 116-63 record, so 3 more than me, correct, and then 10-2 on your lock record. So I would need you to drop a substantial amount on your lock record in order for me to really catch up and meet you there.
Hey, it's okay.
The few games
7-5 is on pace to make the wild card, and that's all you need to do, Mike. If you, it's been a great season of locking teams for me. Outside of my, and it's stupid. It was a prideful lock on the Patriots. That was one of my incorrect picks. When they played the Jets on Thursday Night Football, I was like, "There's no way we're losing to the Jets!" Rah! And lo and behold, we did, because Patriots suck this year. But that being one of my 2 missed locks is just tears me apart, man. But yeah, if we want to get into the injury report, first off, the first Thanksgiving game will be the Bears and Lions. This classic NFC North matchup, and you, our resident Lions fan, would you like to take me through the injury report on the Lions?
Yeah, it was a rough day, this Colts game, because while we were winning, and we were winning pretty handedly, it felt like the momentum was on our side most of the game. We did have a lot of players go down with injury. We lost David Montgomery to a shoulder injury, and Jahmyr Gibbs basically handled the rock the rest of the game through, as Montgomery just stood on the sideline. Khalif Raymond had to be carted into the locker room with a foot injury. He's doubtful. I don't know the full extent of the foot injury, but I wouldn't anticipate seeing him. The worrying thing with that was Amon-Ra was the punt returner. Didn't love that. I feel like we should have... Yeah, I feel like we should have a secondary guy there. I think the issue with Amon-Ra wasn't so much like an injury during the game. He didn't act hurt at all throughout the game. It might just be he took 70 snaps. He's probably just getting a couple of rest days before, so he can ensure he's there for Thanksgiving. Carlton Davis had a non-contact knee injury. That hurt to see, especially with the already pre-existing injuries to the cornerback room where Terry and Arnold was out with a groin, and this Rakestraw landed on IR. Kendall Vildor was out there, and he was getting tried by Anthony Richardson. I wonder, Anthony Richardson had 150 yards. I wonder how many were targeting Kendall Vildor, because it was 2 deep shots he let up on the outside boundary, and it just felt like anything heading his way was being caught by the wide receiver, despite him actually having a couple of decent reps, trying to stay in stride with these guys, just not really managing it. But
Just a point on Kendall Vildor. He recorded a 28 PFF defensive grade in Week 12, which ranked 78th out of 78 cornerbacks graded. That's tough, man.
Yeah.
I know you're on your he's your 6th corner, but come on, man, that's fucking rough.
Yeah, Emmanuel Mosley came back off of IR for that game, so hopefully we get Terry and Arnold healthy, and then we can have at least some semblance of a starting group, getting Terrian back out there. But, with the Lions game matching up against the Bears are, of course, hurt out the wazoo as well, getting just a lot of the offensive line injuries shifting around there, but no new additions to that during last week's games. So it's going to kind of be a lot of questionable day-to-day guys that we see if they happen to go on that Bears-Lions game.
Yeah. And then as for the Giants, Cowboys, and Dolphins, Packers, the only real notable injuries we've got there is Jake Ferguson of the Cowboys, who is doubtful, and Romeo Dobbs of the Packers, who is doubtful, both with concussions. And Dobbs I think both did not practice on Monday, so not a good look for a concussion guy, because you have to go through all the steps of concussion protocol. So
and it's basically a short week.
Confirmed out. So that's all for the Thanksgiving games. However, this year we also have a game on Black Friday. That is Chiefs at Raiders? Raiders at Chiefs. And for the Raiders, obviously they saw Gardner Minshew go down this past weekend with a broken collarbone, so he's done for the year. But they are preparing to get Aiden O'Connell back from injured reserve and for him to start against the Chiefs. So Desmond Ridder, stay your ass on the bench. You ain't getting any starting reps.
Yeah, and then on that Chiefs flip side, not a whole lot of notable names there, but the kicker that was filling in for Harrison Butker for his injury did not practice with a hamstring injury today. So the Chiefs have signed another kicker to the practice squad. In case something happens there, we'll see as that tracks. But you're really just going through the gauntlet of kickers at this point. If you're getting your backup hurt after one game, it's going to be hard to hit those game-winning kicks like he did for the Panthers if his hammy isn't perfect, and they might end up going to the guy on the practice squad for that.
Yep. And then with that, I think that covers everything we've got up until the stocks and pick'ems. So if you would like to get into stocks, we can absolutely do that.
I'll kick us off with our stocks here. First off, my first move is a little bit of a retroactive one. I made a decision last week, and I bought a team that was on bye, and I'm now going to be selling the team that's on bye. So I'm going to sell the Bills here because I looked and I was like, oh, they're on bye next week. I'll buy them this week, and then, I'll have them. And their value won't change, whatever. And then I looked at their upcoming schedule, and it's like, okay, they play the Lions. This is going to be a tough schedule that they have remaining. It's not like they're playing the division for a lot of the remaining games like a lot of other teams are. Yeah, sorry, take the
What you trying to say about my division?
But they play the Niners, which is winnable in my opinion, and then they have the Lions later in the weeks. They play the Rams, which is another winnable one, so it's like they could rack up wins, but they also could drop to the Niners depending on health of players, and then drop to the Rams depending on health of players. So I feel like this isn't the strongest revenue source, especially with the high cost of $8.25 on them. If they drop a couple, I might pick them up, but if otherwise, I don't really trust the final stretch here, at least for the next 3-4 weeks, to be safe like games to be like, oh yeah, they're gonna win these.
Yeah, I was also going to say the high cost doesn't just matter for the like that you're investing a ton into them. It means that they have a high win-loss record, and if they win games, it doesn't add that much to their value, but if they drop a game, it just slashes it straight down. So
Yep.
it's really risky to invest in good teams because if they happen to drop a game, then it's it's just not a good look. But
Yeah.
with you selling Bills, do you have another move, or are we moving back to me on the snakes?
We're gonna go with the snake where I start with 1, you do 2, and then I'll go back
Okay.
to me with 2.
Okay, so I'm going to be selling my Dolphins stock. Put 850 into them for all 3 shares that I've got, and now they are worth just shy of 1500 at 1425. These are updated values, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So yeah, I'll be adding 1425 to my bank, which will put me at 1775, and then this will be deleted. It has been nice having them, but their upcoming schedule is a damn gauntlet. They play the Packers, then they play the Jets, which is winnable, and then the Texans, and then the 49ers. So those are all like they could win out, but it's super risky to hold on to them when it's a they could win out situation versus like they have easy upcoming games like the Bengals do, which is why
Yep.
I'm holding on to them. And then everybody else I've got is either teams that I bought when they were on bye, which was the Bucks, or I bought the Bucks, and then the Texans I bought, and they won one and lost one, so they're back down to exactly what they were when I bought them at 600. So I'm still holding on to them. And then the Bucks I bought like you did with the Bills on bye, and I'm just waiting for a little bit of return before I do anything with them. And as I scroll through the teams on this list, I'm not seeing too much that I'm interested in investing in. There are teams that look promising that are down the board. Teams like the Browns, who just beat the Steelers, who have shown that they could be good. Teams like the Patriots, who have shown flashes, and teams like the Panthers, who almost just beat the Chiefs. But to me, they're just too risky of investments where I feel like they can just as easily go from almost beating one of the best teams in the league to getting blown out by 40 at home against like a mediocre team. So I just don't feel confident investing in them. Yeah, so I've made a little bit of money on the Bucks. I realized we forgot to update the value on that one, so that is fixed now. They're $4.75 a piece at $9.50 for 2 shares. But going forward, they play this week the Panthers. So I'm not super keen on moving off of them before their upcoming Panthers and Raiders matchups. But we'll see about after that. I think for now, though, this is what my stock sheet is going to look like going forward. I don't feel inclined to move off of any of them. The Rams, I still need to make a little bit of money. The Bengals, I'm still hoping to turn the season around a little bit and win some games. And then the Texans, I'm breaking even on them right now, so I wouldn't have any real reason to move off of them.
Yep. For me, since you're basically delegating the rest of the floor for me for the snake draft here, I have 9.15 in the bank, and there's a team that's right at the bottom, very cheap that I oddly have faith in, and it's the Jaguars. It's not so much faith that they are going to win out. They're going to make me a bunch of money, but the fact is that they can lose out the rest of the schedule, and they will only drop 75 apiece. So when I'm looking at that, I feel like the profit gained if they happen to win. Let's say they win next week. They go up 50 apiece. They win a second game to close out the year, and they're going to be at 325. So the profit margin there is certainly in the favor of me. So I am going to be buying. I'm going to buy 3 of them. So I'm going to go with the $200 price tag. I'm going to buy 3, so I'm going to spend $600 on them and go ahead and acquire my 3 Jaguar stocks. And that's going to derail 600 out of my bank account, put me down to 350 in the bank. And I need to update that so my net worth is even. And so I've got the Jags. I'm just hoping to kind of win a few down the stretch here. They play the Raiders. They play the Jets, I believe, as well. So, winnable games, both kind of downtrodden teams right now. So it's going to be a real battle. So, probably some shit show of the week stamps coming forward for the Jags, but that slight chance for profit gain is the risk I'm willing to take there. And then I'm also going to be looking at the Rams. I was hoping that, with health coming back, there was going to be a little bit more of a resurgence of the team. But really, there just hasn't been a strong enough, go of that. I spent $700 on them. They're at $950. And, when I'm looking at their schedule, it's kind of the same way I felt about the Bills, where, yes, these are winnable games. Like, right, this week they played the Saints. But could I see the Saints upsetting them, because the Saints have upset teams already with their new head coach, and they're coming off the bye week? There's the chance for it. And the Rams have not adapted to the season as much as I would have hoped Sean McVay would have prepped them for. And then they follow this week up against the Bills, a team that I definitely think outclasses them across the board. And then, yeah, it's just not the risk I'm willing to take with it. The slight profit I've gotten on them. I'm going to go ahead and take my slight profit there. So that's going to boost my values up to $1,300 in my bank account. Right? That math maps? Yep, cool. Yep. And then now I have $1,300 in my bank. So, why not add more of the Bengals is the one I'm looking at right now, because you've got 3 of them. And I'm kind of sitting at that same point where I'm thinking, oh, you've got 400 and you spent 375 twice on them. I'm going to be doing the same thing, buying them at their current price point of 375. So I'm thinking I'm going to just go ahead and do that. Get my 3. So that's going to cost me what? $750? Yes. 750 out of 16 is going to be $550. Mm-hmm. And that's going to up this value to match your value. And my cost of purchase cost me, I believe, that much. Because I do my cost of purchase differently than you do. Because I like to be different.
I just like to know how much I've, like, what price points I've invested at. Because, I mean, it doesn't ultimately matter. But I like to know, like, hey, I put money in at this price, saw them drop, I went in again. With the Jags, I see that they are worth $200 and it's easy to invest into them, and I like that move. I really do. I just like it a little bit more if we wait until Doug Peterson gets fired. Then, as we know, the interim boost that they'll get will make them win at least 2 or 3 games. That's when I'll probably pick them up. And then the other thing you did, you sold the Rams, and I'm holding on to them despite being down $50 on them right now. I'm just praying they beat the Saints, because then I'll be up a little bit, and then I can get out of there. Yeah. And get out of there before they play the Bills and the Niners and the where are they on here? Oh Lord.
Lordy.
The Jets. The Jets
gosh.
probably win. I don't know. Oh gosh. But anywho, if we want to get out of this stock segment and into pick'ems before we go completely insane, I would be all for that.
Yep. Sounds great.
Woo! Hip hip and hooray. And into pick'ems, we've got kicking off Thursday morning football, baby. It's the best week of the year for football fans. We got Bears at Lions. This one is in Detroit. It's a divisional game. The Lions are cooking right now. I don't care if they're missing a couple players. They're still winning this one. The Bears may tear them up a little bit on the corners because the Bears have good receivers, and the Lions, might be struggling a little bit at corner, but still going to come out on top.
Yep, I think this is a game that coaching definitely will matter. We were hurting for corners. Granted, we were playing slightly inaccurate Anthony Richardson, but the corners still prevailed. We didn't allow a touchdown in the game. So Lions in this one, it's a home game. I think the stadium is going to be rocking on Thanksgiving. So I've got the Lions there. Next, we've got the Giants at Cowboys. The Cowboys just did the unthinkable by, kind of dominating the game against the Commanders. Towards the end, they got a little closer, and then even further towards the end, they really showboated their way down to the win. But I've got the Cowboys in this one, especially with the quarterback situation that the Giants have been going through, the locker room situation the Giants have been going through. Definitely a lot of question marks around the Giants. And while I don't really believe in the Cowboys to win games convincingly, they are definitely going to be better than what the Giants are going through right now.
Yeah, this is kind of this is our shit show of the week, stamp it up
Yep.
there. But this is a game with teams that don't have the same quarterback they had at the start of the year. And Giants is because Danny Dimes sucks and so they cut him. Cowboys is because Dak got hurt. However, I think the Cowboys get this one. I think there's a good chance that the Giants actually target Malik Neighbors in the first half. And if that happens, I think there's a pretty good chance that they might get some completions and some yards, which is something they struggled for last week. But I'm still taking the Cowboys. It's a closer game, and I think they may have the right idea of making Malik Neighbors just torch the DBs of the trigger happy DBs of the Cowboys. Then immediately after the shit show of the week, we get into our no, we don't.
No, we
Psych.
don't. Wrong.
I lied. That's the wrong number. We get into Dolphins at Packers, and this one is another tough one to predict. This is going to be a good game. This is going to be a good Thanksgiving night game. I'm going to take the Packers in this one, but it is definitely hard to pick against the Dolphins. But it's going to be cold, and as much as Tua wants to dispel the narrative that he's not good in the cold, he's not. So I'm taking the Packers.
Yeah, Tua's been on such a heater since returning. I thought there was going to be a little bit of rust, but certainly taking the whole 4 weeks off for the head injury helps. The Packers, they dominated against a very weak 49ers offense. Jordan Love continues to love to throw interceptions nonstop. And it's like, do I value the Packers defense over the Dolphins? And it really does come down to that weather aspect as well, where it's kind of a historical fact. Okay, they love warm weather, and then they're not playing in warm weather. It's late in the year. It's really a tough one to decide between who's gonna win this. And I have to go with the Packers. It's at Lambeau. They've got the home field advantage with the weather. But I definitely think this is a very winnable game for the Dolphins. It just depends on what Dolphins team decides to show up.
For sure.
Then we've got the Black Friday game. We've got the Raiders going to Arrowhead, and I've got the Chiefs in this one. The Raiders, they're going to be coming off whatever quarterback they have that they put in, if they have him actually activate off IR and play, or if something derails his recovery there and they end up having to go with Desmond Ridder. I've got the Chiefs in this one. They're just going to be a stronger team than the Raiders are.
Definitely. The Raiders, I think I can say, are worse than the Panthers. And it's just so odd to confidently say that a team is worse than the Panthers, but I'm pretty sure the Raiders are. They just lost to the Broncos, who the Chiefs beat. And, I don't need to be saying all of this. Chiefs are winning. I'll take the Chiefs in this one. But with the way that they've been winning games this year, wouldn't be shocked to see it come down to the last minute or be a one-score game at the end. And then we get into the Chargers heading to Atlanta, taking on the Falcons. I still believe in the Chargers in this one, and I've believed in the Falcons less and less as the year has gone on. They've really struggled to have an offensive identity, and their defense isn't good. Their pass rush is abysmal. And so I think that their ability to stop the Chargers and the way that they play football on offense specifically is going to be greatly diminished. And like you've been talking about for a while with the Chargers, their defense is really damn good, and I think that'll continue against the Falcons. So I've got the Chargers in the away game, but I've got them taking this one in Atlanta.
Yeah, you made very valid points. I'm going to be leaning with the Falcons in this one. I feel like when I'm looking at my slate here, I definitely went very home team centric on this week. The Chargers, I feel that with the J.K. Dobbins injury, it's a very important cog to their offense. And the pass rush isn't great for the Falcons, and not exactly that big of an issue when you're playing the Chargers, who are this super play action run. Like the pass rush versus a play action play is always worse. So it's not like they're going to be hurting really bad. Like, oh, they can't get after him on the play action. They weren't going to get after him regardless, and he's not going to really do a lot of dropbacks. I've got the Falcons in this one. I'm hoping for that kind of shift back to the way they were looking kind of around week 6-ish, where they actually put things together and Kirk looked good and they were utilizing Bijan. They've fallen off for the past 3 or 4 weeks, it feels like, and I'm thinking that they might be, time to resurge as the, division is definitely still up in the air.
Yeah.
Next,
it's definitely
we've
a
got,
toss-up game, but yeah, I could see it going to the Falcons.
Next up, we've got the Steelers at Bengals. I've got the Bengals in this one. Steelers coming off that tough division loss, and the Bengals, are they eliminated? It's very close. Like they need a lot of things to go right for them down the stretch here, and that starts by beating the Steelers, that divisional opponent. And I've got the Steelers winning this one. The Bengals winning this one. They've looked great the past few weeks. It's just that defense needs to step up, needs to play well, and I think that I'm leaning home team here again because it feels like it's such a divisional matchup. It's a very close game.
Yeah, nobody is technically eliminated from the playoffs yet. The Bengals currently have a 13% chance at making it. However, I'm going to take the Steelers in this one.
Yeah.
I think historically the Bengals have been the better team when they play the Steelers. I know it's tough to predict any AFC North matchup. It's just like we were talking about with the Thursday night game. It's just an unpredictable bloodbath. But I think the Steelers will take advantage of the Bengals defense a lot more than the Bengals will be able to take advantage of the Steelers defense, and that's basically what it comes down to for me. So I'll be taking the Steelers there. And then we get into the Texans at the Jaguars. This is my lock of the week. I have not locked the Texans this year as a team. So that was something I was shocked to see, and this is a game that I definitely think is an absolute smash the lock button. They just dropped one in what I felt was a pretty lockable matchup with the Titans. However, this one I feel like even more so is a game where I just haven't seen enough from the Jaguars to give me that confidence that they can win. And I feel like this is the game that the Texans will win and the Jaguars will fire Doug Peterson pretty soon after the game's over. So I feel like there's enough riding on it that the Texans will come out and, walk in their trap and take over their trap.
Yep. I agree with you there. I've got the Texans winning this one. I'm not so sure if Doug Peterson gets fired this late in the year. I feel like at this point, they've held on to him this long. I think they might just ride out the season with him, but we'll see how that goes. I think the Texans are going to take this one. It's definitely lockable, but I didn't want to match your lock because I went ahead and I looked at what you had. I was like, okay, I can't do the Texans. I did it last week. I'm not going to keep riding your piggybacking off of you. So I've got a different one. But yeah, definitely a good lock this week. Next, we've got the Cardinals at Vikings, which, boy oh boy, I continue to not pick I have one correct pick'ems on the Cardinals all year. I've got the Vikings in this one. Maybe I get to 2 on the year. Don't know. At this point, even if I try to psych myself out and flip the pick on what I actually think is going to happen, it doesn't matter. It's just a curse I've got. So I'm going to go Vikings. I'm going to just stand on that.
Yeah, it worries me more that I'm also picking the Vikings just for the fact that you did. But I think the last time that you picked it right is when we agreed on. So hopefully it happens again. I'll be taking the Vikings in this one. I think their defense is better than the Cardinals' offense. Even though I am a fan of the Cardinals, I picked them last week and they got their asses handed to them by the Seahawks. So I like the Seahawks, but I don't think they're that good. Where it means that I got a lot more faith in the Vikings than I do the Cardinals. Then we get into the Colts at the Patriots, and this one, I'm picking my Patriots. I don't think I've done it since I got the lock wrong. I don't think I've picked the Patriots in a game, but I think this one is such a winnable matchup. And deep down, right, I hope we lose. I hope we stay in that like top 5 range of draft pick, because we're not doing anything this season. So it's a matter of like some pride, but I would rather have a guaranteed top 5 pick and be able to either take top tier talent or trade out, rather than, get a few late season garbage wins that mean we're picking 12th. So I I hope they lose, but I will be picking the Patriots in this one. I think the Colts are a very beatable team for us.
So I wanted to go ahead and fact check you. So you've actually picked the Patriots to win twice since week 3 when you originally picked them as your lock. But yes, that's my little fact check. You did it on the Jets because I believe you had that whole they're going to split their matchups.
And that was correct. That was correct.
Yeah, and then okay, back to this week. Colts Patriots. I've got the Patriots in this one. I think the Patriots defense is definitely one that will excel against Anthony Richardson if Anthony Richardson doesn't go back to the caliber of play 2 weeks ago. He's got those inaccuracies. There's a slight chance for those turnovers off of that. Shout out Gonzo. I've got the Patriots in this one.
Also, Jabril Peppers. He is off the exempt list.
Yep.
He may be coming back this week. I don't know if it'll impact us that much, but hopefully it will.
Yep. Then next, I've got the Seahawks at the Jets, and this is going to be my lock of the week. I really am not a big believer of the Jets. It feels like everything's blown up around them. And the Seahawks, they're coming off a win against the Cardinals. That kind of puts them at the top of their division. So this will hopefully, expand the lead if the Cardinals do lose to the Vikings. It's one that's very important for the Seahawks to continue their hope for playoffs. I've got the Seahawks winning this one.
Yeah, I've also got the Seahawks winning this one. I thought at the beginning of the season that the NFC West was going to be like a bloodbath division. It was going to be like, no, I didn't know who was going to win it. I thought everybody had a chance to. But I was thinking more of like the all teams will be like 7-4, 8-3 kind of range, rather than they're all sitting around 500. They're a little bit less convincing than I'd like them to be, but yeah, I'm taking the Seahawks 100% of the time over the Jets, and this is not just me Jets hating. I do that a lot, but this is not one of those times. And then we get into the Titans at the Commanders. This has got to be a bounce back game for the Commanders, and this has got to be a reset game for the Titans. They should not have won this week, and they got to lose this one. I gotta be right about something. This is. I'm having trouble believing in the Commanders because of Cliff Kingsbury and his inability to close out a season ever in his career. But hopefully a game against the Titans is one that he can actually win in.
Yeah, this game is such an enigma because it's like the Commanders are slipping and they're slipping hard. And then you have the Titans, who Will Levis came back from his injury / benching, and is, he's playing better. He's still, throwing picks and making memes. But he's playing better, and it's like with the defense that the Titans have, do I think that the Commanders can really get past it convincingly enough? No. But I think they will still. I've got the Commanders in this one as well. But man, I think it's going to be another heart-wrencher that's like they're going to give Jaden Daniels, a minute and a half, and they're going to be like, please help us, save us, please, and then he's going to do it. And then next up, we've got the Buccaneers at Panthers. I've got the Buccaneers in this one. The Panthers, they're showing great things, but the Buccaneers are, they're a team I believe much more in. It's a little bit of a Canales revenge game. It's not like he was fired from them or anything, but a little return. Second time this year they're playing, and I've got the Bucs in this one. It's just a team that to me is miles above where the Panthers sit.
Yep, agreed. I've got the Bucs as well. Don't really have too much to say about them. Then the Rams at the Saints. I've got the Rams in this one. I don't think I'll ever believe in the Saints until they make some major changes, but we'll see what happens. Yeah,
I have the Saints in this one. They made a change. They got a interim head coach
It's still Derek Carr.
He's 2-0, and I think that the defense, all of the players are playing better than they did under Dennis Allen. So got a little hope and faith there, especially after like how the Rams have looked. I don't think they're a super cohesive offense that they should be. I don't think that they're playing as well as they should be defensively outside of the D line. But I'm going with the Saints here just because they've shown that they can win with the new coach. So getting into the Eagles-Ravens, this is going to be another like possible playoff and Super Bowl preview. It's our game of the week. We've got stamp it up there. I've got the Ravens in this one, but I mean the Eagles are very strong. Saquon Barkley, it's an MVP looking race for him. But when I'm thinking about the way these teams play, I think it's going to be a great running matchup. Whether it be Lamar or Derrick Henry, I mean you've got Saquon on the other side being the bell cow there. I'm just going with the Ravens here because the Ravens are kind of they aren't so top of the division as the Eagles are to the NFC. So I feel like that extra drive motivation to get to the top there for the Ravens. But man, this is a toss-up game. It's going to be a fun one to watch. But I'm going to go ahead and go with the Ravens.
Yeah, I feel equally toss-up-y about this one. I think, I mean, it's the matchup between the running backs with new teams, right? It's Derrick Henry going from Titans to the Ravens and Saquon going from the Giants to the Eagles. I'm tempted to switch to the Eagles, but I will be sticking with the Ravens, mostly because I want the Ravens to win it, less so because I think that they are just unequivocally better. I believe in them just a tiny bit more than the Eagles, but I think it'll be a very good game, and I think this could be one of those MVP defining matchups where you've got Lamar on one side who's like making a push towards his third MVP, and then you've got Saquon on the other side looking to be the first running back MVP in years. So It's going to be a really good game. It's our game of the week for a reason, and I'm excited to see it. But we'll see what happens.
I'll say that the Eagles on paper, defensively, offensively, statistically, I think the Eagles should win it, but again, with that little bit of bias of who I want to win, I've got the Ravens.
Yeah. Then we get into the 49ers at the Bills. This is another game that, like a couple weeks ago, we probably would have been like, yeah, that's going to be such a good game. But the 49ers, if Brock Purdy comes back, they might put up a fight, but I just don't see them really doing that much against the Bills, so I'm going to take the Bills in this one. It's a banged up team, even if they are fully healthy and all out there. And the Bills are just so good this year. It's going to be so hard to pick against them for the rest of the season.
Yeah, Bills coming off the bye against a team that is very hurt, just has nothing really going for them at this moment, depending on if people come back healthy. I've got the Bills in this one as well. And then for the final one, we've got the Browns at the Broncos. I've got the Broncos in this one. The Browns game, it's divisional. Last week it was kind of, it's that same toss-up worthy game because of the division. But the Broncos, Bo Nix is playing out of his mind. They've really unlocked him in the offense this, good five game stretch here now. So I've got the Broncos going in this one.
Yep, me as well. Broncos are the better overall team, and like you said, Bo Nix is going nuclear, and I'm happy for Matt that he gets to see good Broncos
good football.
Play. I'm disappointed for myself that I have to see the Broncos be good, but that's my own issues that I got to work out on my own time. And with that, I think we can just go ahead and close this episode out. I would like to thank you all for watching and let you know that you should have a happy Thanksgiving with or without family, depending on your situation.
If you're suing your parents, whatever.
If you're suing your parents or like me and you're just, chilling at home for Thanksgiving, then watch some football. It'll be fun. Do you have any words of wisdom or wisdom for these people to lead or live their lives by?
I do have words of wisdom, all right? You need bitches. If you're really down on your luck, you're looking for a lady, you got to hit subscribe. It's right down there. It's It's pretty easy. It's accessible. You just tap that button, and immediately the levels of Riz in your body will rise by tenfold. So yeah, there's that. You got that going for you if you go ahead and hit subscribe. We passed 150 subscribers. Thank y'all for that. But yeah, that's all I've got. Deuces.
Deuces.